after Vice President Harris over her expected rally here with Beyonce.
Today, Kamala is here in Texas to rub shoulders with woke celebrities. Isn't that exciting? But she's not going to meet with any of the victims of migrant crime.
Overnight, Trump amping up his attacks on the administration's border policies, arguing they turned America into a, quote, garbage can.
When Kamala came in, she deliberately dismantled our border and threw open the gates. We're a dumping ground. We're like a garbage can for the world.
Harris firing back.
You know, it's just another example of how he really belittles our country.
While Trump today denying the claim by his former chief of staff, John Kelly, that he fits the definition of a fascist.
There was phony stories by a general that got fired. When you fire people for doing a bad job, they get a little bit angry.
And slamming Harris for repeating them.
She did call me a fascist, and everyone knows that's not true. They call me everything until, something sticks.
Trump also using his visit to Austin to record an interview with popular podcaster Joe Rogan, whose audience includes many of the politically disengaged young men the former president's campaign hopes to turn into Trump voters. And while Harris has the advantage with young voters overall, a new NBC News Gen Z poll shows among young men, Trump is only down by 2 points, within the margin of error.
I don't trust Kamala to run this country.
We spoke to new Trump supporters at Arizona State.
I like his policy on closed borders, and I don't like illegal immigration. He talks like I talk with my friends.
Aiden Garth is a regular Joe Rogan listener and voted early for Trump.
If people sit down and actually watch the full long-term interview, I think they'll see more kind of who Trump is. Not the evil guy that everyone makes him out to be.
Meanwhile, Trump is facing an allegation of groping from former model Stacey Williams, who says it happened more than 30 years ago in Trump Tower, when Jeffrey Epstein brought her to see Trump.
Just as soon as Donald saw us, his arms were around me, and he pulled me into him, and then the groping started. And I just froze.
Williams is a Democrat who first told her story publicly this week on a Zoom call, Survivors for Kamala. NBC News told them about it between 2006 and 2022. The Trump campaign notes the accusation came 2 weeks before the election and says it is, quote, unequivocally false.
And Garrett, it's notable that both Trump and Harris are spending time in a state that is not a presidential battleground.
That's true, Lester, but it does have a competitive Senate race. Republican Ted Cruz appearing here with Donald Trump today. His Democratic challenger, Colin Allred, expected to share the stage tonight with Vice President Harris in Houston. Lester?
All right, Garrett Haig, thank you. And just developing this evening, both presidential campaigns apparently targeted as part of a Chinese hacking operation. Tom Witter is following this. Tom, what are we...
effort of telecommunication systems by the Chinese government. The same hackers also targeted people affiliated with the Harris-Walz campaign. All of this according to multiple people briefed on China's efforts. They say it's not clear tonight if China was successful in their attempts, and the U.S. government said it is working, quote, aggressively to stop the threat.
All right, Tom, thank you for that. Millions and millions of ballots are already in, and as election officials are working hard to protect the vote, their jobs are made all the harder by the spread of disinformation. Here's Tom Costello.
With smooth sailing for millions of early voters, election officials are at work maintaining the integrity and safety of the vote, and tonight, flagging some pockets of concern. In Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, the Elections Board says it received 2,500 voter registrations suspected of being fraudulent, many with handwriting and signatures that don't match those on file.
Many of these are duplicates, unverifiable and/or accurate addresses, inaccurate driver's license or social security number verification.
While some of those reviewed are legitimate, at least 60% appear fraudulent.
At this point, it is believed that the fraudulent voter registrations are connected to a large-scale canvassing operations for voter registrations that date back to June.
The DA would not identify the groups doing the canvassing for the registrations.
So let's see what
This as election authorities are working to debunk disinformation. In Bucks County, Pennsylvania, authorities investigated this viral video about ballots, appearing to show somebody ripping up votes for Donald Trump. But the Elections Board says this video is fake. The envelope and materials depicted in this video are clearly not authentic. The Elections Board says it's notified law enforcement. Pennsylvania, a critical battleground state for both campaigns, with 19 electoral votes at stake. The Republican Secretary of State Al Schmidt on Meet the Press Now today.
probably for most voters, it could look convincing, and that's distressing because things like this are really intended to keep people from voting or to undermine confidence.
Meanwhile, Colorado authorities are investigating at least a dozen mail-in ballots in Mesa County that were stolen and fraudulently filled out. While most were intercepted, 3 were processed and counted.
And this attempt at fraud was found and investigated because of the groundbreaking tools that we have here.
It comes as the Cybersecurity Agency Director, Jen Easterly, says it's up to each state to safeguard election integrity.
They're the ones who are running elections. They're the ones that are closest to it.
With tens of thousands of polling sites and hundreds of thousands of election workers, Easterly says there will be hiccups and disruptions.